This to me is what has helped clients the most in terms of waking up with natural energy. Yes, you can caffeinate your body, you can do all these things, but it's not the same as waking up with natural energy. Waking up with natural energy most likely means you have balanced hormones, you got great sleep, you've got balanced neurotransmitters, and your body's healthy. Like, that's such a big thing. Waking up fatigued and tired most likely means you're not recovered. You're not rejuvenated. And if you do this day in and day out, it does eventually burn out the body. Welcome back. We are here today, brand new Cabral concept. Today's episode 2742. We're going to talk about waking up with energy by resetting your circadian rhythm. This is so extremely important because the more that I study anti-aging, longevity, living past 100 healthily, what I realize is that so much is overlooked in terms of sleep. And I really want to state this because I forgot to mention it on yesterday's show. I hope you tuned into yesterday's show as well, which is how coffee affects the heart, because the end of the study actually showed that coffee matters, caffeine matters, time of the day may matter, but it does not offset diet, exercise, and sleep. And again, I wish I added that last little piece to that, but again, every day I try to bring you little something more, each and every day, add on to additional shows as well. And I found that really telling because this was a 19-year study that I talked about on yesterday's show. That was episode 2741. And you can find all podcasts at stephencabral.com/podcasts, and you can just search any podcast that you want. But I'll link everything up today. Why don't I do that? I'll link up yesterday's show as well today at stephencabral.com/2742. So the interesting thing is this, is that almost nothing you do will override poor nutrition, a lack of human movement. Sitting is now considered what they call the new smoking, meaning you have to get up, you have to move 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day, move your body, and then sleep. And so much is correlated with sleep. Like, they found in this study that caffeine very well may not affect the heart in certain ways that it thought it did, but it led to about 35 minutes less sleep per night, which in and of itself can cause irregular heartbeats as well as premature aging and death. And so we want to look at that. I'm just such a huge advocate of tracking your sleep. There's so many companies out there too. I don't need you to tell you, how to track your sleep. I have my own ways. I use my own ways. I don't want to turn this show into that. But I do think that by now that everyone should be tracking their sleep. So if you don't want to wear an Oura Ring, a Whoop strap, any one of these devices all day long, at least wear it to bed. Just legitimately put it on an hour or two before bed, and don't worry about it counting your steps, your activity. You're just going to use it to look at your total sleep, movement while sleeping, your HRV, your breath rate, your body temperature, and specifically your deep sleep and REM sleep. So total sleep, 7 to 9 hours a night. How do you know if you need more? Well, some people just need a little bit more sleep in order to recover. It goes into Ayurvedic constitutions. I can link up my Ayurvedic shows today. But excuse me, one thing that you want to look at is you may need to be in bed longer and asleep longer for you to get your deep and REM sleep. So some people might be able to get 7 hours of sleep a night and they still get 90 minutes deep sleep and 2 hours REM. Great. They've really helped them to recover their body. Some people, I think probably myself included, in order to get 2 hours of REM sleep, which often happens later in the early morning hours, like let's say between 2 and 6, where deep sleep might happen more between 10 and 2, and I'll talk about that in a moment, 10 p.m. to 2 p.m., is that I really need to be in bed a full 8 hours. Now, I can sleep 7.5 of that, 7:40, but if I'm not in bed, like let's say I'm only in bed 7 hours, my REM sleep typically won't be at 2 hours. It might be like 1:40, 1:45. So I think that's fairly telling. But what I want to share with you today goes well beyond REM and deep sleep, which I have lots of podcasts on those. They're all free. I can link them up here today. It's understanding that if you're struggling with energy, so, why do this on a Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday show? And it's not just about weight loss, it's weight gain, it's transforming your body, which is really all about, what it's about is maintaining a healthy body weight for you, right? For nobody else, but for you. And it's so hard to do. And in the beginning of the show, I quoted what? Diet, exercise, and sleep. It's so hard to focus on good nutrition and moving your body when you're exhausted, when you have no energy in both body and brain. And I was there. I was there for 10 years, right? From 17 years old to 27 years old, exhausted. Bad allergies, autoimmune issue, Addison's disease, lack of cortisol production, flu-like symptoms all the time, POTS. It was miserable existence, no doubt about it. And I'm happy, not happy. I'm ecstatic, grateful that I not only survived all of that, but now healthier, stronger, and more energetic than I ever have been, many decades later. So what I want to share with you is that anyone can do this. And one of the most important things that I did beyond the diet and exercise, and I actually had to tone down my exercise. I was overdoing it, which was exhausting my body. Even though I was eating the right foods, those types of things, I was exhausting my body, is I had to improve my sleep. So I was a complete insomniac throughout my teens and 20s. And even before that, when I was a kid, it took me hours to fall asleep. It just took me hours. And a big part of that is that some people, their minds just do not turn off that easily at night. And my mind never turned off easily. To this day, I'm much better at it and I can do it, but it's there, right? Some people are wired that way. And you can try to change your wiring to a degree, which I have, but it's still degrees of who you are, right? So I am someone that naturally produces a lot of dopamine and norepinephrine. And since I produce a lot of dopamine and norepinephrine, I'm more prone to being more, like you might be diagnosed as a child. It wasn't back in my day, but if it was, I might be more diagnosed as having hyperactivity, right? Attention deficit disorder or ADHD, right? So again, we have to be careful with what sometimes we like to label children. But what I would say is this, is that sometimes some people produce more neurotransmitters than others. And that's not necessarily a good thing. You have to keep that in balance, but it does mean that it's going to give you a lot of energy. Now, if you don't curb that, you burn yourself out, which is what I did, combined with a lot of what conventional medicine was also doing to me as a teenager, which was daily antibiotics for 3 years, right? So when you're on daily antibiotics twice a day amoxicillin for 3 years, it's going to destroy your gut and your immune system. There's no other way around it. It doesn't do, it can't do anything but that because it's wiping out bad bacteria and it's also wiping out good bacteria. It's indiscriminate when you look at something like amoxicillin. So, we're not going to get down that rabbit hole today, but I had to rebuild my entire body and sleep-based routine. So why does this matter? Because if you are not sleeping well and you are not waking up at the right time for your body, you're going to be exhausted. Now, waking up at the wrong time for your body means this: going to bed too late, sleeping in past peak cortisol production, which I'm going to talk to you about today, as well as, and this is super important, waking up to an alarm while in a REM cycle. And almost nobody talks about that. If you wake up to an alarm when you are in a deep REM sleep, you're going to be groggy because you didn't get to move through your sleep cycles to naturally come out of that. And I want to share with you exactly how to do these things here today. So the first step is this. We have to understand how cortisol production works. And there's an amazing lab called the Stress, Mood, and Metabolism Test. It looks at estrogen and progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and then cortisol 4 times a day. No other lab looks at it like this. So you get your morning cortisol when you wake up. That should be your highest of the day. And then, and ideally you want that between 6 and 8 a.m. We'll get to that in just a moment. Then you take it right before lunch, somewhere around noon. Then you take it dinner time right around 5, 6 o'clock. And then you take it before bed, somewhere around 10 o'clock. And what it's going to show is hopefully a graph, a curve that shows higher cortisol in the morning when you wake, and then a precipitous drop over the rest of the day. And that is because the highest spike in cortisol is actually between 6 and 8 a.m. Now, when I was sick and not doing well, I tried to set up a schedule in college and undergrad that would allow me to sleep in a little bit. The problem is that I would miss that cortisol window. And I didn't realize that until in my mid-20s where I started reading about this. And I was realizing that if I miss this cortisol window, I may never feel like I have a lot of that get up and go during the day. So in college, very difficult to do. Go to bed at 9:30, right? 10 o'clock. But here's the reason why. And you just do the best you can. So again, I know some people work the night shift, but I'm telling you, like, you're trying to get as close to in rhythm with nature as you can. There is a gland inside the brain. I'm going to show it to you right now. If you're watching this on video, you're looking at my buddy here, Walter, and this is the model. We're looking inside the brain, and right deep inside of the middle of the brain, you almost can't get any deeper, is a gland called the pineal gland or pineal gland. And what that does is it's light sensitive. So it actually begins to secrete a hormone as the light from the sun, right, from nature, begins to get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. I'm not going to get into blue light today too much, or red light, or different items or different wavelengths of light. But what I want to share with you is this. As the sun starts to set, it's really great for you to be exposed to that setting sun. And what that helps your body do is begin to decrease cortisol levels. So decrease the stress hormone cortisol. Now, it's a powerful anti-inflammatory. It does a lot of things, but really potent, because if cortisol does not lower, then melatonin does not rise. They work in an inverse. So when one is high, one is low. That is always how they work. So by 9 o'clock at night, the sun should have set almost any season of the year. Now, I understand there's places like Iceland, etc., which might get, or Antarctica, that can get, almost 24 hours of light, 24-hour darkness. I understand. We're going to talk about that towards the end of the show as well, what you can do. So here's what I want you to think about. If the lowest point in cortisol during your day is around 9:30 p.m., when should then be your highest rise in melatonin? At the same time. So melatonin should begin to rise between essentially 8 and 10 p.m. at night. And it should start to rapidly increase as the sun is down, as long as you are not exposed to blue light or artificial LED lights, screens, etc. in your home. So be very careful about the light that you're exposed to. You can also wear blue light blocking glasses, which I often do at night, especially if I'm going to be watching any TV or using any smart device. Now, there's also nighttime modes that you can put on those, but a company like Vivarays has great 3-in-1 blue light blockers, and we'll link up that company that I use as well in the show notes today too, again at stephencabral.com/2742. But that will block out a lot of these artificial lights, especially if you're living with family and they don't want to turn down all their lights or put on amber-based lights. So what I want you to think is this. If you're going to bed well past 10 p.m., you may be missing your melatonin window. And then cortisol can start to give you a second wind. The other part is this. If thyroid is beginning to get released around 3 to 4 a.m., and then cortisol between 6 and 8 a.m., what would be the best time to get out of bed? It's actually not really before 5 a.m., like for overall health. It's closer to the 6 a.m. hour. And when you look at that, you find almost this perfect window between somewhere around 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night for bed, and somewhere around 5:30, 6 o'clock to 7 at the latest of waking. So now you can make your own 8-hour window within that, from 9 to 5 at the earliest probably, and 10 to 6 maybe the most ideal, somewhere around there. 9:30 to 5:30, 9:30 to 6 even, would give you the fullest and best opportunity to maximize sleep. Because if you can stop your dinner, again, 3 hours before you go to bed, you're going to bed, you're allowing now yourself immediately to get into that deep sleep that helps to restore the body, and then into the REM sleep, which helps restore the mind and memory. Then you're getting all of that within the window that nature intended. Because once the brain, then the pineal gland, begins to see that light from the morning sunrise, it begins to lower melatonin and increase cortisol, exactly how nature described it and prescribed it. Because now cortisol is the get up and go energy hormone that's also released right alongside norepinephrine, which is also an energy-based neurotransmitter. So as cortisol rises, the brain gets the signal to send to the body, stop producing melatonin, and vice versa at night. As cortisol drops from seeing that sunset, then melatonin begins to rise in perfect symphony, and it doesn't do it any other way. The way that you can begin, though, to work yourself backwards into a better sleep cycle, and I have a whole podcast on this, is simply by working your bedtime back 15 minutes each and every week. So if you're going to bed right now at midnight, just try going to bed this week at 11:45 p.m. The following week, 11:30. And then the goal will be then on the other end to allow yourself to wake up when you're ready, or if you need to wake up by an alarm clock, my highest recommendation is a wake light. So now you are waking by a light slowly over 30 minutes before an alarm goes off. So if you need to wake up at 6:30, set it your alarm, the wake light for 6:30, and at 6 a.m., the wake light will gradually get brighter, 1 little degree at a time. And then at 6:30, if you're not up, it wakes you up by chirping birds that get progressively louder rather than an air raid siren from your alarm, which again could wake you up and leave you groggy. This to me is what has helped clients the most in terms of waking up with natural energy. Yes, you can caffeinate your body, you can do all these things, but it's not the same as waking up with natural energy. Waking up with natural energy most likely means you have balanced hormones, you got great sleep, you've got balanced neurotransmitters, and your body's healthy. Like, that's such a big thing. Waking up fatigued and tired most likely means you're not recovered. You're not rejuvenated. And if you do this day in and day out, it does eventually burn out the body. So there's a lot more I could add. I'm going to keep it at this for today. I have lots of shows on sleep. If you're someone that needs to improve your sleep, just head on over to stevencabral.com/2742, and I'll link up the entire sleep category of shows that you can get much deeper into this topic as well. Hopefully this was helpful. The stress, mood, and metabolism test will be there. Previous podcasts, wake light, what else can we link up? All sorts of things will be at today's podcast show notes. So thank you so much. Do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything. Functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.